Hi guys, it's Sugarbush here, and today I'm going to show you this cool effect that I came up with. That is being able to see through this this wall here. You can see right here. We go in here, there's actually a circle that appears that shows you what's inside here. So let's dive right into it. Okay, so I've created a new project here that has a player controller script and some stuff. I actually have, I think I'll probably give a link to the package in case you guys want to actually go off of this, because I'm not actually going to go over how to creating the player controller script, but I will show you the code really quick that I put in. Maximize this. So this is the player controller script right here. If you want to pause the video and type that in really quick, you may. Then here's another one called follow player that I've written. So yeah, if you want to pause the video and get that down, you may. Just close those. And so I have a main camera here that has the follow player script, and I have assigned the player transform here, and the player has the player controller script, obviously. And you can see I've also got this model here that I made. It's actually that same model that I showed in that I showed earlier at the beginning of the video. So yeah, I'm just showing you that. And also notice that this camera is orthographic. Now this isn't going to be exactly the same as before, or at least not to begin with. So anyways, let's go right into it. So first of all, what we're going to need to achieve that effect, well, we need a new camera. Just call it see-through camera. Let's make sure we take out the audio listener. Let's give it, let's just copy, go back to the main camera, right-click the camera, copy component, go to see-through camera, right-click that, and paste component values, and it will make exactly the same values. Now, this is the camera that's actually going to be showing what's inside right here. Yeah, this is the camera that's going to show that. So how can we go about that? Well, I'll show you the simplest way, and also it will be easy to see for me to visualize. So we can just set the near clipping plane up a little bit. Just do what you need, and then you can see it shows what's inside here. That's the easiest way to do it, and that's what we'll do for right now. So now we're gonna right-click. Notice I have a scripts folder. So right-click, create a C# script, call it see-through camera. Let's open it up. Now notice this is actually not Visual Studio. I recommend using Visual Studio, but just for the sake of me being able to show you a lot easier, I'm going to use this thing called Super Editor. So first of all, let's do require component type of camera, because we're going to actually do and then make a public camera. Then we're going to do void awake camera equals get component camera. And requiring the component will ensure that this is not null. So that's why I do it. So let's let that compile. Yeah, and then we're also gonna have public mesh renderer screen. Now we will have to assign this one in the inspector. So, okay, actually have that. Go back to the scene, and I have a circle model that I put in Blender. So let's drag that in, make it a child of the main camera, and let's just rotate it correctly so that it's facing the right direction. And the see-through camera Yeah, you want to make sure to move this over a little bit, because we're probably going to set the near clipping plane back to, like, to what it was. So if we move this back to 0 and have both of these at 0, the see-through camera is going to be able to see this as well, and we don't want that. So we'll do 15.25 for right now, but yeah, anyways. Let me just move this out just a little bit. So yeah, there we go. And let's create delete that because that's from before. So I have the materials folder. Let's go right click, create, material, call it see-through, and assign that to this. Assign that to the circle. And now, the see-through material. Okay, well, first of all, let's just make sure we attach that script. So, make sure you have the see-through camera, and then we'll drag the see-through script in. Then, see, we mesh render. Like I said, we need to assign this in the inspector. So let's assign the see-through circle. Let's assign that to here. Because that's what we're going to be wanting. That's what we're going to be projecting this camera's view onto. So now we go see-through. And, well, we need to actually put a texture on it. And not just any texture, we want a render texture. So I've got a render texture folder here. So we'll hit right-click, create, render texture, call it see-through, and assign it to this material. So go back, select this material, hit this circle here, and then just search for that. Oh, and another thing we want to do is actually I'll show you that part later. So see-through. So it's black right now. The render texture needs a camera. A camera must be targeting it. So here we go. Let's select the see-through camera. So the target texture here, left-click this thing here, and assign the see-through. Now you can see this is behaving as such, but it's not really all that good because it's mapping the entire view of the camera onto this. We don't want that. We want a cutout of the camera. We want this camera's view to be mapped throughout the screen, basically, and then we want it to be cut out onto this circle. Luckily, there is a shader that I didn't make it, Brackeys did. This screen cutout shader. It should be part of my package. And you can also go to Brackeys' tutorial on Portals, and he'll have a link for the screen cutout shader. So let's go back, select the material, and from this shader, search for screen cutout shader. Now you can see the display. You can see this thing basically is static and stays. This camera view actually stays exactly where. Let me actually just make this bigger really quick. You can see this essentially just shows, for the most part, what this camera is seeing. So yeah, you can see it depends on where it is. What gets displayed depends on where it is, and that's what we want. So this camera, because this see-through camera is already a child of the main camera, it's going to move along with the main camera. But yeah, you can actually kind of see. Fortunately, I wish this main camera view was bigger, but just take a look at this main camera view. You can kind of see how it's already giving us the effect that we want. Now, if we hit play, it's probably not going to be quite right. Yeah, you can see things are a bit weird. And that's because the render texture size is not set up properly. So let's go back to our see-through camera script. Let's declare a render texture variable. We don't need to make it public or serialize it. So let's create a function that's going to create the texture. So void create texture. Then let's do if texture equals null, or texture.width is not equal to screen.width, or texture.height is not equal to screen.height. Then we need to create the texture. So if the texture is not null, in other words, basically, if one of these conditions was true and not this one, so if the texture is not null, let's make sure we release it. And then texture equals new render texture, screen.width, screen.height, and we'll just put a depth of 0. So this is creating a new render texture using the screen width and screen height. And now we need to first set the camera.target texture equal to the texture. And then let's do screen.material.set texture. Okay, so quotes underscore main text just as such, and the texture will be the render texture. Now this isn't actually going to do anything because we haven't assigned it. Now you probably could put it in update, but I actually want to use a function called void on pre-col. So this happens basically before this camera renders the scene. So yeah, basically all we got to do is pass in the create texture. On pre-col will be called. So yeah, close out of that. Hopefully things work as expected. So now we can see it looks exactly the same. The size and stuff is exactly the same. Now let's position this thing a little bit differently. And give it a slightly higher scale. Let's just hit play again really quick. And yeah, you can see this is basically functioning like we want it to. So, okay, you saw that kind of weird, thing, and I think that's okay. We can actually just go back to the script and briefly on awake, screen.enabled equals false, and then screen.enabled equals true. Hopefully that will work. If not, we can just move the camera manually over to where the player is. So yeah, okay, it's still happening. So we could temporarily disable it manually. Maybe that would do it. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, but the screen though. So yeah. Oh, pre-col. Let's move this to... And in fact, we might as well disable it during pre-col. Okay. Still doing... Then. Alright, so I think we're gonna need to, move the main camera to where it has the -2, 1. So basically it should already have the same position to begin with. There we go, that's pretty much about right. So now you can see this is this thing is in here. The circle is pretty much working the way we want it, except you can see that there's this kind of weird offsetting thing. So that's because that has to do with the near clipping plane, like I was saying earlier. So to fix this, well, let's set the near clipping plane back to 0.01, but then it's going to see the walls. So we need to disable those. So what I've done is I've given these, delete those, given these materials, this little section here actually has a dirt transparent material. So we can't actually edit these because they're part of the model. So what we have to do is select these, Control D or Command D if you're on a Mac computer, and let's drag these into the materials folder. And let's make sure these are assigned. Going back to here, drag grass into grass, dirt into dirt, dirt transparent 2, grass transparent, and let's get the stone as well. So I have those materials set. Now if we go to dirt transparent, actually let's do both of these at the same time. Oh, these should be, first of all, the transparents should be fade. Should be of type fade. So if we drag this down, you can see that this part actually turns transparent. And we can actually make that be the case with the see-through camera. And make it render like we can make this camera render with these materials. So we set these so these can be set to 0. We can have the see-through camera render, and then before we render the main camera, we can set them back to 1. Essentially, that will do what we want. So I'll show you. Let's go back to see-through camera really quick. And I'm going to do the serialized field. So serialized field, material, array, materials to hide. The serialized field is basically, it's not public. This only makes it visible in the inspector. Unlike public, other scripts can still can't access it. It's still private. But the only thing that can access it is the editor. In case you don't already know. So we'll assign these, we do have to assign these in the inspector. So, okay, on pre-call, we don't need this screen enabled. It's not really helpful. But we still do want the post-render. So we're going to create the texture. Well, before we do that, let's do for each material mat, M-A-T, in materials to hide. And then mat.color equals new color. mat.color.g r mat.color.g .b, mat.color.b, and then 0f. This is the A part of it. So this is basically going to make the material completely transparent. Make the material completely okay. Now we're going to do a very similar thing. So we're just going to copy Control-C or Command-C and then paste it on post-render. So now on post-render, we want to go back to what it was before. So make the material, remove the transparency. We're going to remove the transparency. for other cameras to see, basically. So let's save that. We probably don't need start and update, but I'm going to keep those anyway. So now, we have to assign these. Sometimes I like to right-click and lock, so I can select these materials at the same time. Just drag them in. And let's also do the grass transparent. So now, this should, and then this should also be a fade. So this should theoretically work the way we want it to. Not entirely sure why it's black. See-through circle. Oh, it's probably... Oh, yeah, the see-through camera is still able to see this circle. So let's move it forward a little bit. So that this see-through camera should not be seeing this circle. You could give it a layer and then hide it, but it's actually easier if you just do it with the near clipping plane. So you can see the near clipping plane is now past where the circle is. You could also just move it, but I prefer the near clip plane. So now you can see the see-through camera should not be seeing that. So now let's hit play. Let's see how this works. Yeah, and now you can see this renders. It renders just right. Yeah, look at that. It's working just the way that I want it to. It's working pretty much the way I had it in my other project. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.